Hello learners. So in our previous session we discussed about the solid waste, the nature of the solid waste, the sources from where it is being released and what could be the effects on environment and our health. In today's session we will be discussing about solid waste management, how to manage it, what could be done so that we have less impact of the immensely waste generated which is being taking place at today's times. Learners, what is solid waste management? You must have heard the term management before. When it comes to managing solid waste, it means and it involves management of all the activities associated with the generation of the waste, with collection of the waste, how it is transported from the place where it is generated to the site of maybe collection, treatment or disposal, how the transportation takes place, I mean to say, and what is the processing, how it is being done, and disposal of the solid waste. Ultimately, how we are, making it or converting it into some material which is not that hazardous, or how we can reduce or eliminate the effect of solid waste. So this is actually being done according to the principles of economy, because since long, we have been interested and we have done a lot towards managing the solid waste. There have been many studies and many opinions of the people, the researchers, the scientists, stakeholders who are involved in this whole exercise, and we call it as management because it involves planning. We have to see the source of generation, how much of it is generated. So it is the planning, it is organization of the whole bulk of the waste materials, the different types which we have seen already in the previous session. So how do we organize this whole exercise of collecting the waste or segregating it and then taking it to the collection site and finally disposing? It also has a component of administration which is very crucial. Financial aspect also has to be looked into it, because at present times we have to see that how much of the budget is being allocated for transportation, how much of it is going for collection of the waste, how much it is for the you can say disposal of the waste. So financial, legal, also the engineering aspects, all these systems come into play when it comes to managing the solid waste appropriately. Number one thing, learners, now you must know that today we don't talk about waste management, because now we have recognized waste as something which is useful, which is waiting for recognition, which is a resource. So now the terminology has changed and we call resource management. There is a change in perspective. When it was 20th century waste management, the whole problem was how to get rid of it, how to see that it is no longer visible, it is not there at all. It was like throwing away, out of sight, it was like out of mind. How to get rid of it, how to get rid of the plastics, how to get rid of the scrap materials, how to get rid of the old furniture. Getting rid was the ultimate, you can say, the strategy and the whole focus point of waste management at that time was this. But now, since we are saying that we are no longer into waste management, we have now entered into the phase of resource management. And for that, we have to see that how we can use it. All the discarded products that we are throwing away, go back to those products and see how we can reuse them, how we can refurbish them, so that the energy which has gone into the production of that particular material or the raw materials which have gone into that, they can be put into some use, so that the future generation is not devoid of the raw materials and is also able to sustain the quality environment for a longer period of time. So number one thing which we should remember is that it is resource management and no longer waste management. Another change, which has taken place is that, think about the earlier times, what we used to do of the waste which was coming out of the industries or the waste which was coming out of the cities, that were just thrown away in water bodies. So the concept Earlier was dilute and disperse. Throw it in water, it goes away, it is no longer visible, and the natural system will take care of it. That was the earlier days. And those days, the waste material, there were two things. The production of the waste was minimum. It was not so much. Secondly, the type of the waste was not hazardous. It was mostly organic. So when you throw it in water or when you put it on land, it automatically after some years, it gets back to its original form, and it poses no danger to our soils, to our water bodies, to aquatic organisms and to us. But now what is the change is that the waste is being generated in huge amounts, plus the nature has changed. We are generating more of toxic waste, hazardous waste. They sustain in the ecosystems for millions of years. So what has changed, that from dilute and disperse to now we have to think through science and engineering aspect, that how we can concentrate and contain, reduce the volume, minimalize the concentration, and then we have to contain, because there is no other planet. Like we are inhabiting the earth, the waste materials, the discarded materials which are being generated, they also have to be here only. We have to contain them. Now we have to see that how we are containing them. So in a nutshell, the best thing is that try to make use of all that is thrown away. Use it through recycling, use it through reusing, and then minimum is going into the landfills. So there is a change in the waste management paradigm, learners. The earlier, the focus was throwing away the waste or taking the waste materials to the landfills. Now what has changed? Earlier it was maximum going into the landfills, then it was waste to energy generation, particularly the agricultural waste, the biomass based energy sources we started recognizing. Then recycling of iron, paper, glass, maybe plastic to some extent, reusing and reducing. Now the modern waste management hierarchy gives least emphasis to landfills, and the most preferred option in the waste management hierarchy is prevention of the waste. Reduce the substances which goes into the dustbins, into the category of the discarded products. Design the products in such a way that we are able to use every part of it. And it has been in the culture of our, you can say, of our society. We have been traditionally reusing our old clothes, bags, toys, crockeries, furniture. When we are not using, we give it to somebody who can use it. We made different articles out of the old clothes. So this has already been there but has been forgotten in the previous years. We have to go back to it. Then reusing, then recycling for those segregated and collected materials, and then making compost, of course, with the help of different composters, taking care of the agricultural waste or the waste which is coming out from our homes, which is organic in nature, horticultural waste, and waste to energy treatment plants, and the least preferred option is landfill. So according to the waste management rules which have come up in 2016, it has been stated very clearly that only those inert substances should go into the landfills for which no other option is available. If you cannot compost it, if you cannot recycle it, if it cannot be reused, and it is an inert substance, it will not cause any danger to our soil, water bodies, then only it should be going into the landfills. So learners, you must know that this is the modern waste management hierarchy which has come up now and which needs serious thought and also action. So let us talk about few management, I should say, options or management strategies or techniques which can help us to achieve the goal of 100% solid waste management. The first and the foremost is segregation. Segregation at source is very crucial. Unless and until we put the different waste materials segregated according to the categories. And you know what are the main categories? It is the dry waste, wet waste, and also the hazardous waste. So we have two at the household level, at the community level, at the institutional, industrial level. All provisions must be made for the segregated collection of the waste. So that which is biodegradable can be converted into compost. If you are able to recycle, then the dry recyclables, particularly there is one category that can be recycled, and there are if there are hazardous waste, they should be collected segregatedly. So it is of great importance, because in today's times what we are seeing is that the waste is not segregated. Plastic, electronic items, biomedical waste, your fruits, vegetables, peelings and other waste, they are all mixed up. So if you take it to the waste to energy generation plants, it is of no use. It is very difficult to go for any waste management techniques if the waste is unsegregated. You cannot segregate the dustbin of your house if you are told to. Think about the huge volumes of the waste which is being generated in our cities. You must have seen at various places. Is it possible manually to segregate the waste? It is not. And still the waste workers, particularly the children, the women, they are involved in these activities where they pick up the recyclables from the whole garbage of the waste which is being dumped in the outskirts of the cities. That is a very common sight you must have seen. So we should lay emphasis first of all on the segregation. Segregation at source, from where it is generated, it should be segregated into different categories. Then composting. It can be done at our homes also. You can take the leftover food, fruits, vegetable peelings and all that is generated in your homes which is biodegradable in nature. In the absence of oxygen, the decomposition takes place, and after some days you notice that all the waste of your homes, of your kitchen has converted into compost, which is very fertile, and it can be used in the kitchen gardens. It can be used in the horticulture, in your own societies, in your own communities. We can take up this initiative and we can set up the composting plants so that at least a major share of the waste that goes into the landfills is put into some use. Most of the waste which is being generated in India is biodegradable in nature, whether it is agriculture, dairy or our homes, public places. Everywhere you find that there is a huge volume of the biodegradable waste from which the compost can be made. It is very, very fertile for the soil, and it should be, and there should be a market for the compost actually, because unless and until we have the market of the these type of manures which have been traditionally produced, then there is no use. So there comes the role of the different government agencies and policies. Then incineration, most of the hospital waste, and for certain instances we follow the incineration method where the waste is being burnt at a very high temperature, and it reduces the waste to almost 90% of the waste is being eliminated by this method. But however, we generally do not prefer it because it is adding to another problem where one problem is solved. It leads to the air pollution, a mix of you can say cocktail of harmful gases is being emitted, dioxins, furans, when different types of waste are being burned together. And it is a common practice in the rural areas. In winters particularly, they burn the tires also, they burn the paper also, all whatever they get, they burn it to keep themselves warm. So it is a small scale burning or incineration which is being practiced in the industries and the hospitals. In both the cases you find that it leads to air pollution. So it should be practiced in limited volume of the waste and limited instances it should be followed. Then pyrolysis. Pyrolysis involves when you decompose the organic matter at a very high temperature from 400 to 1000 degrees Celsius in the absence of the oxygen and very high pressure. So, it leads to the generation of the carbon ashes. With the help of this, the biogas, bio-oil, this can also be, you can say this can be made into some use, but the only condition which remains here is that it should be properly segregated, because if the heterogeneous waste is there, then the efficiency of the gas and the oil which you are producing by this method will be of not much use. Then palatalization. You must have heard about the plastic palatalization. Means it is a process actually to enrich the high calorific value organic content of the waste, and it is actually compressed in the form of small pellets. For example, the dry fuel, the refuse dry fuel, they can be used as fuel. So, certain types of the waste, they can be converted into small pellets by the action of heat, by the action of pressure, and they can be stored easily, they can be used in the form of fuel, and it also reduces the pressure on our landfills. And disposal methods. Disposal methods, the most common method is landfills, where you must have seen that what is the landfill. Most of the landfills in India are saturated. They are running beyond their capacities. And when we say that the landfills are saturated, that means that lot of harmful gases, toxic liquid in the form of leachate, it is being produced, it goes into the water, underground water is polluted, the soil is polluted, and it also poses a threat to the people who are living in the nearby areas. So, landfills should be away from the residential areas, they should be scientifically managed, technically and engineer aspects should be considered well. It should not be at the site where the water table is very high. So, proper public health safety measures must be taken into account while we dispose the waste materials through landfills, because we have seen the plight of landfills in different parts of the country. You must also have seen the condition of the landfills and how they are nuisance, how they cause environmental problems. Even the methane gas is being released, which is one of the contributors in the global warming. So, this also needs to be checked properly. So, while we were discussing about the different methods, our ultimate objective is that we have to move from a linear to circular economy. It was the linear economy initially, but now it is the time to consider circular economy, where we can see and we can utilize the waste products again, we can continue them in the economy process. It is like make, consume, enrich, and make, use, and again return back. So, raw materials, energy, other resources, we can see that they are again and again circulating. We are putting into some use, while earlier it was make, use, and discard. We manufactured, we used, and then we used to discard it, whether it is some product of electronic items, or it is for example as simple as the plastic materials, the containers. We manufactured, we used it, and then we disposed it, threw away. And this throw away, one time use culture, it is more dangerous for the issues related to solid waste management. So, we have to think that why we have to value waste as a resource. In all these practices, what we have seen is that we want to use the waste for some use. We want to make it as a resource, because of course, there are economic aspect of waste management. We must recognize this thing. Economics, then job opportunities are immense in this field. Lot of job opportunities, millions of jobs can be created if we go for solid waste management properly. The jobs are there in the recycling sector, the jobs are there in different other sectors. So, this is something which is very, very important. Then value addition must be there, so that we can see how we can upcycle, how we can recycle our products, and also most importantly, it is in line with the Sustainable Development Goals, which talks about responsible production and also responsible consumption. So there are policy instruments, learners, you must be aware of, and you must know about them actually. Extended producer responsibility. Likewise, we also have the extended consumer responsibility. Deposit systems, which is coming up by different companies who are take back schemes. They take away the old phones, old electronic appliances when they are not in use. So this is one of the important measures which are coming up. Segregated waste collection points, you can see in the railway stations, in the airports, where it is mentioned that where we have to dump the plastic bottles when we are not using it. So these things are coming up. Cleaner production we are supporting now, and there is also a good support for the recycled products, recycled bags, eco-friendly papers. Now we are going, the young generation is particularly looking for these products in the market. So it's a kind of a support indirectly, which will enhance the effective solid waste management. So there are issues, we have already discussed about the different issues like collection, segregation, these are in issues, and for action, policy, technology, these are also some of the other issues which need to be taken care of. So we can say that solid waste management is incomplete without societal innovations, practices. We have to include all the stakeholders when we discuss about solid waste management. It cannot be done exclusively by the researchers, the scientists, or the industry people. But as a waste generator, you and I as consumer, we are waste generators. So we all also have to look back, we have to correct our actions so that minimum is being wasted, minimum goes into the landfill, and we are able to live in a livable, beautiful planet as we were living before. Thank you.